This is the story about loss, of lives changed, love fractured. It happened not long ago, and the pain has followed those involved down through history.
I lost the only thing in my life that I ever wanted. I loved her so much. I still love her. I'm her mum. It was to be a secret. It was not to be discussed.
He was actually taken from my arms without telling me what was happening.
I can just remember lying there thinking it'd be better to die.
A historical injustice is what happened to us. Other countries have recognised it, and it's high time ours did.
"60 years ago, British society was very different.
The bride's name is Stella. She's 19, lives in Barnet, and is getting...
Marriage was the cornerstone of family respectability.
50% of them took place in a registry office.
To have a baby outside wedlock would risk breaking the most potent of social taboos.
Sylvester Stupar.
But what if you did become pregnant without a husband?
Start down the aisle.
What would happen to you and your baby? It was a question that would come to haunt hundreds of thousands of women.
The scene is a big gay holiday camp at Bognor.
I was working in Butlins holiday camp in Bognor. I was going out with one of the redcoats. We became intimate and I got pregnant.
Veronica Smith was one of those unmarried women.
My mother didn't tell my father because she said it would kill him.
So he never knew?
No,
Ever?
never.
So shameful was it that Veronica was sent in secret to a mother and baby home and had to create a story with her mother to conceal the pregnancy from her father.
I used to meet my mother at Wimbledon Station and she'd come with airmail paper and envelope and we concocted this letter that I was working away from home in Spain and that I was having a good time, that I'd be home soon and take it back to my father. Obviously took it out of the envelope and bless him, he just thought it was true.
Thought you were away?
Yeah.
This was in 1967. I was 16. I met my boyfriend. And then I became pregnant.
Jill Killington was another woman who experienced the shame of unmarried pregnancy in the decades after World War II, and was even made to wear a fake wedding ring to explain her changing body shape.
It was the most shameful thing that could happen. You know, it was described as a fate worse than death to be unmarried and pregnant.
it haunts you. It's like a death, really.
Joan Chambers was also subject to shame.
I wanted to keep him. It was cut and dried. You know, there was no way they were going to let me keep him.
Joan became pregnant as a teenager in 1961.
I was on holiday with the youth club.
She was told she couldn't stay at home.
Everything spiraled out of control really, really quickly. And within months, I'd left home. And I mean, to be alone at that age, quite shocked, you know, no support. It was horrendous.
But in those days, it wasn't just family shame that changed the lives of these unmarried pregnant women. Once the initial shock and shame of pregnancy had sunk in, the young unmarried women faced new challenges, and where the real pressure to give up their babies began.
I was really, really scared. And I just blotted the whole thing out because apparently that's what teenagers do.
Diana de Vries was 16 when she became pregnant. For many young women like her, the shock of telling her family was soon followed by their first encounter with the state in the form of a GP or a social worker.
She spent a lot of time telling me things along the lines of, you'll do the best thing, this is your only option, you'll give your child to your proper mummy and daddy because you can't possibly be a parent to your child. You're not fit to be a mother.
Some may have embraced the sexual liberations of the era, but society and some of those who worked for it did not.
I was 18. I don't think I wanted to believe that I was pregnant for a long time.
Judy Baker was also single, and she too came before a persuasive social worker.
She almost immediately suggested adoption to me. Certainly there wouldn't have been any idea in my head, I don't think, before that. And she presented it to me, as far as I can remember, as this wonderful opportunity almost to give my baby a loving home that I couldn't give her. So that was the start of me being indoctrinated, if you like.
That's a good girl.
Yvonne Labram also felt the pressure when she became pregnant out of wedlock, aged 20.
You're not married, so therefore you're not keeping the baby, which really hurt me.
You wanted to have the baby?
I wanted to have my child.
The pressure on unmarried women to give up their babies took hold in the 1950s. It coincided with increased demand for adopted children from childless couples in post-war Britain.
We were asked to prepare a layette for the baby.
But thousands of these women, like Anne Keane, wanted to keep their babies.
Told me, and
Yet they often felt ground down by social workers into submission.
it was coercion. The phrase was, this will be for the best. This will be for the best for the baby. This will be the best for you. Because if you really love this baby, you will make sure that he has a different life and not with you. And that the best thing to do is to give him up.
If you love your baby, you'll give him up. It was the chilling phrase that thousands of unmarried women would come to hear. The next stage for the unmarried pregnant women also involved the state. But this time, it was professionals who were supposed to be kind and caring in NHS hospitals.
I was 17 years old, so this was 1963, but I found myself pregnant.
Pat Tugwell can still remember what happened to her nearly 60 years ago. She'd gone into hospital to give birth, but even as she was going into labour, she was confronted by the cold-hearted comments of one particular nurse.
The place that I was really made to feel dreadful was when I went into the hospital to have him. And I remember the nursing staff in there were not very nice and very abusive to me. I remember one particular nurse who seemed to enjoy being quite rough when she examined me. And I remember her saying to me, "Oh, well, how did you get like this if you don't like somebody doing this to you?" You know, it was really quite abusive. They were quite abusive. That was horrid. That really sort of hurt me in a way. You know, I was a human being, you know. Why couldn't I be accepted for that? All I'd done was, you know, I was having a baby, made a mistake, you know, but that was it. I was still a human being.
Tonight's debate is about the abolition of discrimination, upholding the rights of
Anne Keane, who later became an MP, also had a harrowing experience in an NHS hospital. She recalls a midwife who refused to offer her pain relief, even as she was giving birth.
When I asked for help, I wasn't given any help for pain. In fact, I was told, you will remember this, so you won't be wicked again. You bad girl, you won't be wicked again. And so that was really, really difficult.
16-year-old Diana de Vries faced a similar experience in an NHS hospital.
And somebody said, "It's a girl." She said, "This baby's flagged for adoption. I'll take her away." And I can remember yelling and saying, "Please bring her back, bring her back." Everybody left. And I was lying there on my own, on this thing, covered with a sheet. And a crying baby that I couldn't reach. And they left me there for 4 hours. I can just remember lying there thinking it'd be better to die. I didn't die.
I think this was written.
Yvonne Labram says nurses took her baby away as soon as she gave birth.
I never even got the chance to hold her straight away. I felt cross that I'd just been left like a piece of meat laying on a slab.
It was 1978 when I found out I was pregnant.
Jano Farmer will never forget the day she gave birth. She found herself begging the doctor for pain relief.
Can you stop, please? I'm not anaesthetised. You're stitching, and I can feel everything you're doing. He didn't say a word to me. He didn't say a word, and he went on to the next stitch. And I thought, this is terrible. This must be what it feels like to be tortured.
Nurses didn't even let her see her baby.
So I didn't see him at all. Not even a little bit.
And when was the first time you got to hold your own baby?
First time I got to hold my own baby was 31 years later when he was about 6'1". So I never held my baby. I never saw him.
In the 30 years after World War II, that's what many unmarried women went through. Even in hospital, they felt shunned, poorly treated, and alone. But in these post-war years, who were these NHS staff who could treat the unmarried pregnant women in such a way?
Some of the older midwives would see, I hate the word, but these are fallen women. They've got to get on with their lives.
Anne Hare knew some of them. In 1974, she was a trainee nurse. She worked at this former hospital in Edinburgh and witnessed how some of her more established colleagues treated the young women.
Sometimes you felt they were cruel in how they spoke about them.
How did these young mothers react?
I think they were in shock. I think most of them hadn't really expected what would happen during birth. And I think probably they were traumatised.
The traumatic experience at the hands of doctors and nurses compounded the sense of worthlessness and isolation felt by the unmarried women. At every turn, they were made to feel they had done wrong. Young, alone, disorientated, many came to feel that they had no choice over what came next.
It's a wrench to part from your baby, but this mother has decided it would be better off with parents who can give it all the same.
The next stage was perhaps the worst. The handover of their newborn babies for adoption. Young life that they had wanted to nurture, cherish, and keep.
It was 1959 and I was 20 years old. And I lived at home with Mum and Dad.
Margaret Suter had given birth and never wanted to give up her baby. She recalls blocking the door to the social worker who came to take him.
I pushed the door so that she couldn't get in, and she said, you know, don't be stupid. This is what has to happen. You know, it's going to a proper family.
Are you saying that you physically tried to stop the door being opened by the social worker?
Yeah. Well, I pushed the door, and I said, oh no. And she said, you know, you knew this had to happen. Come on, don't make so much fuss. It's all over now.
Joan Chambers came to lose her baby in a similar way, and it was just as traumatic.
He was taken into matron's office, and then they told me to go back into the nursery and take the bedding out of his cot and get it ready for the next child the next baby that was gonna come along. And matron just said, oh, she's only crying because they're taking a baby away today. And I think that was really cruel. Really, really cruel. And it's something I've never got over. Never will.
Pat Tugwell, too, was treated with equal scorn when she was told it was time to give up her baby.
On that morning, I had to dress him in his best clothes, the best clothes I had for him, and and put him into a carry cot, and then I had to take him into one of the rooms and just leave him on the floor and then turn around and walk away. And he was taken from me just after that. And I knew that I was never going to see him again. I knew that I would never see him again. That was it.
Some mothers now question whether they even signed a consent form. Those doubts were reflected in this document from an adoption hearing when the judge said he was doubtful about the validity of the Justice of the Peace's signature on the form. One of the most callous experiences was felt by Anne Keane. She was taunted by a midwife when she found out she couldn't even say goodbye to her baby son.
I went to collect him from the nursery and he wasn't there. She said, "Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's gone. I tell you where he is. He's in that room over there, in that building over there. His new mummy will come for him and she'd be very happy and they'll both be very happy and that's the last you're seeing of him. And you can come with me now into the bathroom because I need to put you in the bath and let's get rid of this milk."
And then the letter came.
Others, like Judy Baker, were summoned to adoption centres, travelling alone or with a parent to pass on the baby they desperately wanted to keep, but now felt coerced into handing over. Take us to the day of the handover, when you passed your baby daughter on to the authorities. How difficult a day was that?
She was asleep. She never woke up. And they took her from me and gave her to the people who were waiting in the next room to adopt her. And that was it. How could that have happened to me? But my mum was waiting for me downstairs and we went shopping. We went shopping. I loved her so much. I still love her. I'm her mum.
Diana de Vries is also haunted by the last time she saw her baby.
I was holding her right up until the point where a woman came out, a woman in a white coat came out, said, "It's time." And the woman spun around and said, "Say bye-bye." And interestingly, as I started to buckle, my daughter started to howl. And she cried all the way out of the room. I remember that noise.
"50 years ago, this was another building the trainee nurse Anne Hare worked in. She says some of her colleagues treated the taking away of babies in an almost routine way.
Some people did it in, I would have said, in a less compassionate way than you would expect.
And these birth mothers, these young women, suffered as a result.
Yeah. And subsequently possibly babies.
Lisa Rowland was another mother who suffered the same crushing sense of loss. She was 16 when she gave birth to her baby son and wouldn't see him again for 30 years. These mums were the unmarried ones?
They were the young.
We showed her our interview with Anne Hare, the trainee nurse. Lisa found it a profound moment to hear from someone within the NHS confirm forced adoptions.
Actually having someone in the profession saying this is what happened just gives you credibility. As a young, unmarried mother, turning up at hospital to have a baby, you had absolutely no chance whatsoever.
The appalling impact of losing a baby to the pressures of forced adoption was also felt by Elspeth Ross. She gave birth aged 16 in Glasgow and was told by the matron of her church-run home to simply leave her baby and go. Did you give up your baby?
No, he was taken. He was actually taken from my arms without telling me what was happening.
Elspeth showed us that former home where her baby was taken for adoption 60 years ago. This is the first time she's been back inside.
It's a little strange walking in here after all these years.
It's now private flats, but she goes straight to the room where she last saw her baby.
But this still has pieces from my son.
It's a moment she yearns for the past.
Just turn the clock back.
When you see this room, what does it mean to you?
Oh, it's horrible. It's just horrible. So I've saved this up for years.
This was the last place you saw your baby.
In that room.
Elspeth wouldn't see her son again for 35 years. Forced adoptions in these post-war years affected everyone involved. Take Yvonne Labram, who we saw earlier. She had been in a relationship with Andy and gave birth to Liz. But for half a century, they've all endured the pain of separation, of being part of a potential family that was never allowed to be a real one. Andy always felt a sense of responsibility towards Yvonne when she became pregnant with his child. But he says he was frozen out from everything and wasn't even permitted to be at the birth to see Liz, his newborn baby.
I'd been told without a doubt that I wasn't going to be allowed into the hospital to see Yvonne or the baby. So there was a huge chunk of her life where she didn't have any relationship with her birth parents, and it was difficult. Yeah.
For Yvonne, losing her baby Liz was devastating.
I lost the only thing in my life that I ever wanted.
Liz was adopted into a loving family, but always felt confused by what happened to her. What did you come to think of your birth mother? Did you come to resent what she did?
Yes, I did, because I had no idea why. Why would you give up a baby? I never understood that as a child. I just couldn't understand.
Liz is part of the other side of this harrowing story of forced adoptions. The children of the women pressured to give up their babies. Many of the adopted children from this era were placed in the homes of loving families. They grew up secure and safe. For these, adoption worked. But for others, the separation would prove difficult, often despairing.
I was born in 1963 in a mother and baby home in Northampton. It was always made obvious that it wasn't something you talked about.
Gaynor Weatherly says she always felt a stigma of being the child of an unmarried mother. She says she never fully belonged in an adopted family.
In your life, you think of the words secrets and lies. So you keep it a secret from a lot of people, and so it's a bit like you're not living the right life.
What would you have wished for?
To have stayed with my mum, been allowed to have been kept by the woman that gave birth to me. Okay, she was only a girl, but she was still with my dad. If they'd have had support and help, I should have stayed with them.
I had an identity forced upon me. Left me with a sense of not belonging, not really knowing who I was. I feel like I just wasn't the person I was meant to be. I was somebody else.
Jan Shine was born in 1960 to an unmarried 18-year-old mother. Her adoption didn't go well.
I had no love whatsoever. I'm angry for the system allowing me to be given to those people. I'm angry for the trauma and pain caused to my birth mother. I'm angry that all of this has impacted on my life, my relationships. It's lifelong. It continues throughout your life, and that's whether you have a really good adoptive family or not.
The humiliation inflicted on the children and their birth mothers can even be found in official documents from the time. One person wrote on an adoption paper, "The baby is beautiful, unlike its mother." For the birth mothers and their children caught up in the forced adoptions of post-war decades, it's left them with a lifetime of regret. It's filled them with anger and bitterness at the lost years. That's why many have decided they won't be ignored anymore. Many individual birth mothers and their children believe they were the only ones to have suffered. But in the past few years, they've come to realise forced adoptions have affected hundreds of thousands of people. Their pressure has now helped create change. Their experiences have been the subject of 2 national inquiries, one by the Scottish Government and one by the UK Parliament. Many of the women came to London to tell their stories to Parliament's investigation and to finally have their voices heard by revealing what they went through at the hands of state employees.
This baby has to be given away from you, and even thinking about it is wrong. Because you're bad.
For the first time, it felt like they were being treated seriously.
Good afternoon and welcome to this session of the Joint Committee on Human
One
Rights.
government minister told the inquiry he was personally sorry for forced adoption.
I recognise the hurt and the pain that occurred, and I am deeply sorry that so many went through this ordeal. I acknowledge the profound and lasting impact that this had on them.
But he stopped short of committing the government to an official apology, something many of the MPs questioned.
Hugely appreciated by these women and by their children, and indeed by some of the fathers of these babies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear what you say.
It was another raw moment for the birth mothers watching.
We don't matter. And I have the impression that they are holding out so that the older members of the group will die and the issue will go away.
These ladies, the birth mothers and the adoptees, need this apology. We need our trauma to be acknowledged, to be validated.
But what would the committee do? Would it see forced adoptions as simply a byproduct of that post-war era? Or would it recognise that the women involved had been treated inhumanely by the state? They had already waited decades to have their stories heard. But what would happen on the day the report was published? We were with some of the birth mothers and adoptees when the committee's conclusions finally came through. An official apology should be given in recognition of lasting suffering caused by adoption practices.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Really brilliant. Really brilliant.
For Judy Baker, who never went on to have another child, an apology would recognise deep, enduring pain.
How can you do that to a teenager and to an innocent baby? How can you part them simply because I was unmarried?
The committee's published report spoke of the violation of family life and made a number of conclusions. The most important is that it called for a full government apology to the birth mothers. Its findings were unflinching, saying that their treatment during and after giving birth was deliberate punishment for their pregnancy while unmarried. It adds, the government therefore bears responsibility for what happened to these mothers.
These women have suffered from shame and vilification and the burden of secrecy for decades. I think the least the government can do is recognise that this shouldn't have happened then and it would never happen now, and it's right for the government to apologise.
Someone officially saying sorry is what the women have always wanted, together with services for counselling and help in tracing records. But can they get the government to give an apology? It wasn't just in the UK that forced adoptions took place. In the same post-war era, hundreds of thousands of Australian women were also put through the similar horrific pressures to give up their babies.
Today, every Australian who is listening or watching
watching at home because you know the sorrow and suffering of forced adoption. You who face the difficulties.
They too fought for years to get a government apology, and they succeeded.
Today, this Parliament, on behalf of the Australian people, takes responsibility and apologises for the policies and practices that force the separation of mothers from their babies.
It was an historic moment, a final recognition of a wrong that should never have happened.
And the apology continues. We know you have suffered enduring effects from these practices forced on you.
Australia became one of a number of governments and states to issue their own apologies. But what about here? The fight is underway. The women say they now have a parliamentary report to back their case. They say it would make a profound difference to their lives and the lives of their adopted children to have what happened to them acknowledged and accounted for.
Adoption is like, it's always been there. There's always been that nagging feeling of loss, guilt, shame, anger.
I feel very bitter and I do feel resentful, yes, something that shouldn't have happened. I have often thought about the way I've been with babies, that, oh, it's no good cuddling a baby, they get taken away from you.
What harm is it going to do? But it would mean a lot to us. It would mean a tremendous lot to us.
You've never been able to have a reunion with your son in 60 years. Has there ever been a day where you haven't thought of your son?
No. There never will be.
Do you think it's time someone, the government, should say sorry?
Yes, I do. I do. I definitely do.
What did this whole experience do to your life?
I just never really had a life, to be honest. I just went through the motions. Just go on with your life and do your best, and that's it, and that's what I did.
With a big hole in it?
A great big hole in it,
A historical injustice is what happened to us. Other countries have recognised it, and it's high time ours did. It's about me and many mothers like me feeling I did not give him up. I did not abandon him. So therefore, the apology is to clear almost my name and my son's name, that he was not given away.
Did you give up your baby, give away your baby?
No, she was quite literally taken from me. I didn't feel entitled to fight because I felt that I was worthless. Everything I went through left me with a sense of complete and utter worthlessness. I felt as if I didn't deserve anything. I had no right to ask for anything I wanted.
What do you say to their campaign to get an apology from the Scottish Government and the UK Government?
I think they're right. These women were not treated with the dignity and respect that you would expect of a professional. Must have been horrible and ghastly. More of them.
My middle daughter made a comment to say that they'd been denied a relationship for so much of their lives.
Sorry would be a great thing. Losing your child is an immense failure, whether or not you actively participated or not, and that leaves a scar. It's a very scarring thing.
What have you missed out on?
Well, being a mum. And it's difficult. I've got stepchildren now, but I don't know how to mother. I don't know how to, so I haven't done it. It's not just me, it's thousands of women. And it was so wrong.
Now, when I think about anybody taking a baby from me, I think I would kill them first. So why didn't I react more? I feel guilty that I didn't stop it happening. And I just feel like saying to people when I see them with babies, and I'm not, do you realise how lucky you are? That you've got that baby, and there's nobody going to come along and take it from you.